What is Grounded fam? It's your boy Johnny Gio. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Grounded Phoenix podcast. My guest for today has kicked heroin on multiple occasions in prison. He has dwelled the streets of Skid Row. Thankfully, he's now doing God's work, working in recovery. My homie, MoreDown, Mighty Mo. Thank you for joining me, bro. How you doing today?
I'm very good, man. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
No doubt, bro. No doubt, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Most def. So we're about to rack up some fat ass lines of vulnerability. Don't get it twisted. It's not those. It's not those kind of lines. So let's just jump right into it, dude. I want to know, dude. I'm curious. Like, when someone does heroin, like, how do you get to that level? Like, what were you going through in your mind? Like, who were you with? What were you up to at that point in time? Like, how did it all go down?
So the first time I did heroin, I was in my mom's garage. I was living with my mom. I grew up in San Gabriel Valley area, like, you know, from Arcadia, Monrovia to Pasadena. I was living in Monrovia at the time at my mom's house, and I was selling a lot of dope. And I had a homie with me who I met during selling dope. He would sell dope for me, him and his girlfriend, because I didn't have a car at the time, but him and his girlfriend had a car and they would sell dope for me. But they did heroin, and I would let them stay in my mom's garage, and I like have my recording studio in my mom's garage, and I just be in there kicking it, recording, doing dope. And you know, him and his girlfriend would do heroin, and they would always be smoking it. And one day, I guess I was just curious. I'm like, what does that shit do to you? Like, I've seen my homies do heroin before. When I was younger, I got in a gang, and it's a Pasadena gang, and I see my homies do heroin, but for some reason, like, it just, like, I never really felt the urge to do it. I was probably too tweaked out or something. But when I had these fools in my garage, they were just smoking it, and I remember I was like rapping, I was doing something, I was recording some song, and then I'm just like, just let me try it, and they're like, all right, and they gave me like the piece of foil and the straw, and I just remember hitting the heroin, and then I went back to try to keep rapping, and I was just like, boom, I almost like fell. I was just like, oh shit. And then just from there on, I just kept smoking it with them, and then at some point later on down the line, I just started using needles, both with meth and heroin. And it was just like, I never went back to smoking it after that.
So you initially started with crystal meth, like that's how it all started. That was your drug of choice to begin with.
To begin with, yeah. I started using crystal meth. Well, I drank and I smoked weed, like, here and there.
Yeah.
But when I got around 14 years old, I started hanging out with some people from school, like some homies from my school. A homie Joker and a homie Smokey. Right. And they were from this gang I eventually got from. But I just started hanging out with them, and they would always go, they lived by me. So I'd always go back to my homie Joker's pad, and you know, his mom was like a meth addict. And his mom was like one of those moms where just like, oh yeah, you can come to the house and party. Like, if you guys are gonna party, just party here. Don't go out and party, come party here. So they would always go to his house and just party and like do meth and stuff. And I remember one day I went over there, and some dude was there, I guess, and he had dropped a sack of dope on the floor. And then he bounced. He like picked up his dope and he bounced. And we walked in maybe like a little while later, and his mom was just like, hey, so-and-so dropped a bunch of dope on the floor. Like, you could probably find some. So the homie went and found like a bunch of dope.
Oh, snap.
And then we were going back to the room. I had never done it before at this point. So we went back to the room, and then she was just like, you better not get Moreno high. Like, you better not get him high. And we're
That's
just
what
like,
they called you, Moreno?
Yeah.
All right.
They're like, you better not get Moreno high. And then the homies were just like, all right, we won't, don't worry about it. And then like, I would just start smoking on the foil. They showed me how to do it. And she walks in and she sees us like getting high, and she's like, you motherfuckers. And just like,
I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah, what do you expect?
Like you told them, like, hey, you know, by the way, this dude drop some dope over there. Don't go use it. Like, nah. Like,
yeah.
You best believe you're gonna use it. Damn, that's a trip, dude. How did initially, you know, doing heroin, how did that like take off? How did that progress in your life?
Well, once I started doing heroin, you know, I sold the dope for money, and I used the heroin for pleasure. Like, I did the dope, and like I started slanging it because my homegirl got busted. My homegirl like had half the city of Pasadena soda. Like, she's known out here.
Damn.
And she had like half the city was hers. The other half of the city belonged to like another neighborhood, and we had like some agreement. We are not gonna go on your side of the city and sell dope. You don't come on our side of the city and sell dope. But if your people want dope, they can come on our side and buy it from us, and vice versa. You know what I mean? But she wound up getting busted, and she just had like so much clientele. So she was just like, I need you to take over for me.
She passed the torch.
She passed the torch. And you know, I was fucking blowing up. I was making a lot of money doing it. I remember there was one time I had literally like 18 calls back to back. I had 2 phones. I had 18 phone calls. I had to sit down. Yeah, one for the plug and one for the low.
Yeah.
So I had to sit down and write all these orders down and make out all the sacks. And I went to my homie's house, my homie's hotel room, so I could write all these orders down, make out all the sacks. And that's actually where I met the little dude who was doing heroin that I first did heroin with. Right. He was at the hotel room that night. So as I'm making out all these sacks and all this stuff, like, my boy is treating this little dude that I did heroin with that eventually started selling dope for me. He was just treating him like shit, like disrespecting him. Right. He would take one of his shoes and take the shoelace off his other shoe and make him walk around with one shoe, no lace, and barefooted on the other foot, just like punking him. And I was just like, why are you treating him like that? And he just thought it was cool. He's just like, oh, because this fool's my bitch and shit. And I was just like, when I was leaving, I remember telling the dude, like, hey, like, if you don't want to be treated like that, you can come work for me and I won't disrespect you like that. Like, don't let this fool disrespect you. Like, that fool was my homie too, but just the fact he was just disrespecting this fool, like, I didn't think it was cool, you know what I mean?
Like that shit. And that's a trip. Like, you were already doing meth, you were doing heroin, but you fucking had some principles still, huh? You were just like, hey, dog, like, that shit don't fly with me like that.
Yeah, I'm like, that shit's not cool, bro. Like, that shit don't make you look cool. And I told the dude as I'm walking out, like, here's my number. Like, if you want to come work with me, like, I'll hook you up. You don't got to be treated like this. Like, fuck this fool, you know what I mean? So that fool eventually hit me up, and then he started, like, rolling with me. And he started coming to my pad, and I would give him sacks, and he'd go sell them for me. And I kind of took him in because he was kind of like a homeless little fool with his girlfriend, and he was staying wherever he could. So, you know, I had a heart, and I just felt like, okay, if I could help this guy out and help him get his fix or whatever, make a little money, and help me make some money, why not? So he would do heroin. I started doing heroin with him. And then eventually it turned to like, okay, I would do dope just because it was there. I was selling it. Like, yeah, I was addicted, but I was pushing it. Like, I was pushing it, getting high, pushing it, getting high. And when I started doing heroin, it was like, okay, I would do this for pleasure. I wasn't selling this. I was doing this for pleasure, doing dope for pleasure and selling the dope. So it just became like, heroin was just something like I started doing all the time. Eventually I started selling heroin, but I never sold heroin like I sold dope. Like, I sold a lot of dope. Like, I would buy a lot of heroin, but it was mostly for personal use, you know what I mean?
Okay, so you never really made money on the heroin.
I mean, I made money. There was a point where that wasn't the majority of my money. The majority of my money was for dope. So I would do heroin, I would do dope, I'd be in my mom's garage. There was a point in time where my mom was eventually like, yo, I'm fucking gone. Like, she realized what I was doing. She realized I was from a gang. I had people over in the garage. I was up all hours of the night. I was either nodding out or I was up all night. And she's just like, I'm out of here. I'm bouncing. Like, so she actually got me a room in Monrovia. She paid for it for like maybe 4 months. It was like a room for rent. She's just like, here, I'm gonna get you this place, and I'm moving out. Like, I'm gone.
Right.
And she took off, and the rent was like $500 a month, I think.
Okay.
And she's like, I'm gonna pay this for the first 4 months, and then you're on your own. And
that's cool.
Yeah, it was cool, man. Like, my mom did so much for me, and that lady, I put her through so much. And like, at that time, I was just like, man, what the fuck? Why are you tripping? You know what I mean?
Right.
Me just being selfish, like, not even thinking like how I'm affecting my mom, just thinking, why is she tripping? Like, and to be honest, I didn't want to leave my mom's because I felt so safe and comfortable there. But when I got my own spot, I was just like, whatever. I threw a fit about it. I was not grateful at all. I was pissed off. And but I was doing heroin. I was doing a lot of heroin at this point, and I was slamming it. Now, the first time I slammed it, one of my homies got out of prison, and he was big into heroin, and I was smoking it. And he's just like, "Why are you smoking that shit? You need to slam it." And he just like slammed me for the first time.
Just like, fucking grabbed your arm and or
yeah, I remember that fool was just like, my other homie was just like, I'm like, I want to try it, and the homie's like, so there was two homies, right? One homie's my big homie, and like, he is a true friend. Like, even though like we did drugs together and I'm from the same gang as him. I remember when I first got in the gang, he was just like, don't do it, little homie. Don't do it, little homie. Like, this will forever change your life. Like, I'm like, I want to do it. I want to do it. He's like, are you sure? Like, I don't advise it. I'm just like, I want to do it. He's like, all right, I can't tell you what to do.
Right.
So I got jumped in. The first time I did heroin, like I wanted to do heroin, I wanted to shoot it up. He's like, don't do it. Don't do it. And I was just like, why not? I want to try it. You guys are doing it. He's like, don't do it. Like, it's not the right thing to do. I'm like, well, I'm going to do it anyways. And the homie was just like, all right, well, I'm going upstairs. And he went upstairs, and the other homie's like, all right, I'll do it for you. And I remember he just loaded the rig up. He's like, give me your arm. He just pulled my arm out, and that fool just like pop and just fucking pushed it in. The fool didn't register or nothing. I was just like, ah, you motherfucker.
That shit must have hurt.
Yeah, well, luckily he didn't miss.
Right.
Because like, that shit would have really hurt. Luckily he didn't miss though, but I was still just like, ah, what the fuck? But instantly, like, I fell in love with it. I was just like, damn.
It's like night and day from smoking it to like slamming that shit.
Yeah, it is like night and day, because when you smoke it, like, you know, you can. I remember first time it hit me hard, but it's kind of like more gradual. But when you slam it, it's just like right away. You just are just like, you're just like, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like being drunk without like the dizziness. You know what I mean?
Oh snap! Okay.
Yeah, it's.
So was this like a pinnacle moment for you, and the sense that like, after this is when it was all bad after, or was there still like, you know, you were still be able to like make your money and shit like that, or how did it get to the point where you were like in Skid Row and homeless at one point and shit like that?
Okay, so I was selling dope for my homegirl, right? And I wound up getting busted. So I was in this spot, Monrovia. I was still selling dope, making a lot of money, doing a lot of heroin. I remember I had my hair braided like fucking Coolio. This shit looked all crazy. And I was going to school, Los Angeles Film School. And, you know, I would go and I would fucking do school all fucked up and come back home. And that little dude and that chick that were selling dope for me, eventually I got busted. So, you know, they took all my dope, and I really didn't have any money because I had dope and money on me. They took all my dope, and when I got out, it was harder to pick up. But I did pick up a little bit after a while. I picked up and I started selling dope again. But I think I went to jail for maybe like 5 months. I went to county for like 5 months. So then when you get out, like, people already find new connects.
Right, everybody's fucking moved on.
Yeah, and the party don't stop just because I'm gone. So then I get out of jail and I try to like start up again, and it's just harder. And, you know, I go straight back to using drugs. I go straight back to using heroin. And I remember I got busted again. Like, I was waiting. So that chick and that dude, like, I took care of them, you know what I mean? Like, when I was selling dope, they were selling dope for me. They were making money for me. There would be a lot of times where they would come short. They wouldn't have all the money, but I would still take care of them.
Right.
Because they weren't just working for me. Like, this fool was like, I considered him like a little friend. Like, I was trying to look out for him.
Right.
But, you know, when people are in their addiction and using, like, a lot of people, like, lines, like, they don't give a fuck. They're going to do what they got to do. And they were heroin addicts, too. So I remember I had got busted one time, and I had, like, a couple grams of heroin in my room, and they knew where I kept it because they would come over and I would get heroin, and I was selling a little bit of heroin to my roommates. Some of my roommates were heroin addicts, so I would sell them like heroin, and I would just burn them because they didn't know.
Right.
But they would buy like 3 fucking grams for $80, like 4 times a day. I was just like, damn, I just made like $200 off these
right.
sales.
Oh, snap.
And but I had the heroin in my drawer, and when I got out of jail, I remember I called the fool. I'm just like, his name's Cody. You know, his name's Cody, the homie Cody. I'm like, yo, Cody, I'm out of jail. And it was Halloween night. I remember it was Halloween night. And he was just like, all right, cool. Like, I'm like, for sure. And I was just like, I got a gang of heroin at home, bro. Like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to get it. We're going to get high. And then all of a sudden he got quiet. He was just like, I was just like, hello? He's like, yeah. I was like, Cody, did you take my heroin? He was just like, nah, what are you talking about? I was like, did you touch my heroin? He was just like, nah, just call me when you get home. I was like, all right, bro, I'm gonna call you. So I hung up, I got home, and I fucking was looking for the heroin. I couldn't find it. And I remember I was like sick, because I had been busted maybe like a week at this time. I got busted. I was busted like a week, and I was still like kicking, you know what I mean? Because I went in like loaded as fuck. I was loaded for maybe like 2 days, and then I got out like 3 days later, but I was kicking pretty bad. And I was just so happy to be home. And I fucking looked and the shit was gone. And I asked my roommates, like, hey, did anyone come over? They're like, yeah, your little friend and his girlfriend came over. And they said they were gonna clean up your room. So when you got home, you had a clean room.
And they cleaned your house. They cleaned your fucking drawers.
Yeah, they cleaned out my drawers. And the worst part is I got home, my room was still dirty. I was just like, what the fuck? So
they could have cleaned the room at least.
Yeah, at least done that. Made it look like they fucking really did something. But the shit was fucking not there. You know, we all know the same people, so I called some people, figured out where they were at. They were at some hotel in Rosemead, the Night's Inn. So I went over there, and, you know, I just kind of like walked around the hotel room, like walked around the hotel in circles, and eventually I seen his girlfriend come out. They had a little dog named Cobalt. She came out, I seen her outside with the dog, like taking the dog to piss or whatever. So I like hid behind a wall and I watched her. And then I seen what room she went to. And as soon as she opened the door to go in the room, like I came behind her and like I rushed the room, and she turned around, she seen me and she's like, oh shit. And she tried to close the door, but I got my foot in the door.
Right, you got it.
And I just pushed my way in. And then I was just like, where's my fucking heroin? Where's my fucking heroin? And the homie was just like, I didn't touch it. I'm like, you're a fucking liar, because you're the only people who knew where it was at. And my roommates already told me you two came over. And he was just like, bro, I don't know where it's at. And I remember just while he was talking, like, I just headbutt him. Boom! I just headbutt him, like, while he's talking. And then he's like, oh, my teeth. I'm like, man, fuck your teeth. What are you talking about? And I looked in the mirror and I had, like, 2 white things in my head. And I was just like, what the fuck is that?
Bro.
And I pulled it out and they were his teeth. And, like, my head started bleeding. I was just like, oh, shit. And I was pissed. I'm like, bro, where's my fucking heroin? I need my heroin and my money right now. And he wouldn't give it to me. And like, this fool was my friend, but I was so mad he stole from me. Like, I started hitting him, and then he wouldn't hit me back. I'm like, Cody, fight me back, like hit me back. And he's like, bro, I'm not gonna hit you back, you're my brother. I'm like, you better fucking hit me back. And he wouldn't hit me back, so I just stopped hitting him. I'm like, bro, you need to fucking fight me back, and you need to give me my money. And then he was just
throw
like,
punches.
Yeah.
Give me my loot while you're at it.
Don't let me beat your ass like this. Give me my money.
I'm trying to teach you a lesson.
Yeah.
And pay my ass.
And then he was just like, bro, I don't have it. Like, I'm not going to fight you. And I was just like, well, I'm taking your fucking dog. And I took their dog. And that little dog wound up becoming my dog.
All right.
But
took his puppy.
The cops were on me because the cops knew I was selling dope. They were trying to bust me. And apparently, word around the grapevine from what I heard is because I took their dog, like, his girlfriend was so pissed off at me that she told the cops, like, who I was, where I was. And eventually the cops came and got me, and I got busted. Like, I think I did 6 months in county, but
6 months for jacking the dog?
Well, no, I did 3 months actually. I did 3 months. I had stolen the car, but she had told them who I was, where I was at, and they were trying to bust me for selling dope because they knew someone named Moreno was selling dope, and they just didn't know who he was. So they're trying to figure out like who this Moreno person was, and she gave me up pretty much.
Right.
So they got me one day. They busted me on some shit, and they were trying to get me for sales, but they couldn't because, like I didn't have any scale on me. I didn't have any baggies on me.
Right.
Like I just it's all personal use. So they couldn't. The sales charge didn't stick, and then they just got me for some personal. I was in jail for 3 months fighting it. But you know, when I got out of jail this time, like now I'm struggling because now people. I'm no longer selling dope because I fell off because I was in jail, in and out of jail too many times. My homegirl who fucking put me on in the first place, eventually during all that shit, wound up getting out and starting up her shit again.
Right.
And it's just like, now I'm just a dope fiend with no hustle, you know what I mean? Trying to get back and forth to school, strung out on heroin, strung out on meth, just kicking it with people, trying to get high. Like, I had no job at the time.
And this is where you were rolling up at Skid Row?
So Skid Row, I never lived on Skid Row, but I had a homie who was on Skid Row, and I would go there. So I went to prison one time. The first time I went to prison, I went for a gun. And I was like homeless in Norwalk, walking around. I met some dude, apparently he was gonna give me a rap deal. He just wanted some collateral, so I was gonna take him a gun. And on my way to the hotel room, I got pulled over. The cops searched my briefcase, they found a gun on me. I wanted to go into prison. I got out of prison. I remember the whole time in prison, I didn't use drugs. I drank maybe once or twice, but I didn't use drugs. I was just like, I'm never gonna
So
come
you
back
got
here.
clean in prison.
Well, I don't want to say I got clean.
You stopped using heroin.
I stopped using heroin and meth in prison.
Okay.
But I still drank. So I don't want to say I necessarily got clean, but I put the hard drugs down. And I got out of prison, and when I got out of prison, I would still smoke weed, and I would still drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a marijuana card, so they weren't tripping on the weed,
Right.
and I would drink. But I didn't do any hard drugs. And I was on drug testing. I was on AB 109. So for the first 6 months, I got drug tested. I was on AB 109 for a year. From the day I got out, and then a whole year I was on AB 109. For 6 months, I was getting drug tested, and I didn't use any hard drugs.
Well, how were you feeling at that point? Were you feeling good? Like, what was your mentality like?
I was feeling good. I was super motivated when I got out of prison the first time. I remember I went to go stay at my aunt's house in Ontario with my grandma and my auntie. I got out of prison. A month later, like almost 30 days to the day I got out of prison, I got a job. By the second month, I had a car, and by the third month, I wound up moving out of Ontario, and I got my own spot in Pomona. Like, I rented a room in Pomona. So, like, you know, in 3 months, I was super motivated. I'm like, I'm not gonna get high no more. I'm not gonna do the heroin. I'm just gonna be cool. I'm gonna work. And I was super happy. I was super motivated. I got a good job at like a fine dining steakhouse. I was making really decent money. I was probably making like, on the weekends, I was making like $350, $400 a night.
Mm-hmm.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday was maybe like $200, and then during the week I was making like $100 a night at least, maybe anywhere from like $80 to $100 a night. So that was pretty good money.
It was an honest living too. Like, you could say like, hey, I earned this shit. It wasn't nothing that I came up on or shit like that. It was clean money that you were proud of.
Yeah, for sure. I was definitely proud of it. I felt good about myself. My family was happy for me. I remember when I bought a car, I bought like a little beater. Like, I bought a little beater BMW. It was falling apart. And for my birthday, my mom had bought me a Scion. Like, I had to pay her back for the Scion, but they were just like so happy with me that I was doing good and like I was being independent that they bought me a car. They're like, here, we're gonna buy you this car. You gotta pay us back for it. You could pay us in payments, but here's a fucking newer car, so you're not fucking driving around this beater.
Right.
And it was like an awesome thing. So for the first 6 months of my AB 109, I didn't do any drugs. I was supposed to get tested for the whole year, but they're like, well, for the first 6 months, you passed every single drug test. Like, we're just gonna stop testing you because you obviously don't have a drug problem.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, fuck no, I
You saw
don't.
the
Like,
green light.
I was like, all right, cool, I don't got a drug problem. I remember that night, I fucking drove to Skid Row and I picked up heroin. I just found some bum on the street, and my mom used to live in downtown, so. And my little homie, back when I was selling dope and my little homie was with me, my little heroin addict homie that I told you stole the heroin from me,
yeah.
Him and his girlfriend would pick up heroin from Skid Row.
Right.
So that's kind of how I knew about it, because I would roll with them and they would just find like, people be down there, they'd be like, Chiva. And Chiva's like, heroin.
You roll up over there, it's like a culture. They have their own slang and shit. You just fucking like, Chiva, like, call like, cuckoo, fucking start calling out shit.
Yeah, so
like,
you would just find someone and they'd be like, show them the money and they'd get you some balloons and like, I went with him to do it a couple of times, and then eventually, like, he's not gang related or anything, so, I would see him do it, and then eventually I'd be like, let me get it, because these people are gonna see like a little white boy and his girlfriend and try to fuck with their dog and try to burn you guys. Like, let me get the heroin.
Yeah.
So eventually, like, I started getting it for them. They would just drive us out there. I would get it, so I knew how to do it. So that day they took me off testing after I got out of prison for 6 months. They took me off testing after 6 months. I went to Skid Row and I picked up some heroin, and I was just like, boom, I went home, I did a little shot, and it was just like, damn.
Right back at it again.
And then from there, like, I remember the first 6 months were so good. I got a job, I got a place, I got a car, I got a new car, I'm doing good. And then the next 6 months, like, okay, I'm doing heroin once a week, I'm doing heroin twice a week, I'm doing meth. I'm doing meth and heroin, and I'm doing meth and heroin at work. I'm fucking getting all fucked up. Like, I was never much of a picker, but, every now and then people have those picking episodes. I would pick my fucking face, and I couldn't go to work because I was all picked out. I'd have to fucking make some excuse, like, oh, I got in a fight with my dad. I love you, Dad. Sorry. But, I would say I got in a fight with my dad, just make some shit up so I didn't have to go to work, and I would, like, send my boss a picture. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking.
Right, I mean, you were just like trying not to get caught up and shit. Like,
yeah.
Real quick, I want to go back to like when you first got out of prison, because where did that proud feeling go away that you were like, I mean, I know you were clean, well, not clean, but you know, you got clean from meth and heroin. What was that mentality like when you found out the news? Hey, you know what? Like you're free. You're not gonna get tested no more. Like right away, you're just like, I'm gonna fucking party. Or like, how did that like register in your mind? You weren't like, yo, I mean, I'm actually clean. I kicked heroin because I know that shit's tough.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's crazy because when I got out of prison, right, and my dad and my grandma picked me up when I got out of prison. They picked me up both times. So, you know, I was happy and I was doing good and I was just drink and smoke weed. I felt like a normal person, you know what I mean? But I don't know why, but for some reason, as soon as my probation, parole officer, my AB 109 officer told me, like, we're gonna take you off drug testing, you obviously don't have a drug problem. Like, I don't know if I showed it on my face, but I had a big ass smile in my head. I was just like, and just like, boom, like it was just like instant, like a light bulb. Like, no, I don't. Like, no, I don't.
It was just automatic.
Automatic. That's all I was waiting to hear. Like, because for some reason, like I knew if I did drugs, they were gonna test me. I was gonna get caught, obviously, because I was on probation before, and I remember I failed every single drug test because I'm like, fuck, I gotta stop using meth for 3 days so I can go piss test.
Yeah.
And I remember I couldn't do it. I could not do it. So I knew in my head, like, they're gonna be testing me. Fuck it, I'm just not gonna do any drugs because once I knew, like, okay, if I start, like, I'm not gonna be able to stop because I tried it before on probation. Like, I would be like, man, just stop for 3 days, just 3 days, stop. But I couldn't do it. So when I got out of prison, I'm like, fuck it, I'm just not gonna do it. But as soon as she said, like, we're not gonna test you anymore, I don't know, it was just like instant. I was just like,
yeah, subconsciously, cool. That shit just fucking registered.
Yeah, it woke up right away. It woke up, and I went to Skid Row. I picked up a little balloon of heroin, and I just boom. I did a little shot of heroin that night. I remember I went to sleep, woke up, went to work the next day, and then it just started progressing. Like, okay, I'm gonna go get some more heroin. That was cool. Wasn't so bad. I just started doing it, and then I started doing meth again. And I didn't do meth for 6 months because, you know, heroin is bad, but then meth and heroin together are just like, for me, it's like, boom, like the demon rages his head, you know what I mean? Because I'll do meth and then I'll get like this feeling, and then it's just like, heroin keeps me like calm and mellow, and heroin is something I get stuck on. Like, I need it. But meth, for some reason, like, I didn't do it for a long time, and then as soon as I did it, I remember I picked up, there was just some little fool, some little homie. You could tell he was like some little gangster homie on the street. And I was in Pomona and I was looking for some heroin. I was just like, hey, you know where to get any heroin? And he's just like, yeah, I can get you some. So he got in the car, we went to his homie's pad, he got me the heroin. And then I was just like, all right, where do you want to go? And he's just like, do you want to smoke some dope? And I was just like, well, where? And he's just like, I don't know, I don't got a spot. You don't got a spot? And I was just like, well, fuck it, let's go back to my pad. And I did my heroin, and like he was smoking the pipe, and then he handed it to me, and I hit the fucking pipe, and it was just like, boom. And then all of a sudden from there was meth and heroin. And I just remember I was up all night, and then I'd be up all night, I wouldn't get sleep, and I start losing weight. And it was just like a party, you know, and then I was just trying to like maintain. At first it wasn't so bad, but maybe after like 2 months it got kind of bad, and then it started affecting my work. And then like I started going to work all fucked up. My work started noticing. I started making up all these excuses, and then the next 6 months was downhill. So I got off of AB 109. Luckily, I got off. Like, I did a whole year. First 6 months, I did good. The second 6 months, I was loaded the whole time. And then after the second 6 months, they're like, okay, we're discharging you from AB 109. You're no longer on parole or probation. You're no longer on county supervision. And I was just like, cool, I'm done. I got away with parole, probation. I got no tail. I'm done with the law. They can't fuck with me no more. So now I'm just using, going to work, getting high, going to work. And it was my birthday, and some of my coworkers wanted to take me out for my birthday, so we went bar hopping in Pomona. So we were going to all these different bars in Pomona, and after the night was over, like, I got in my car and I was gonna go home, and I only live like a block away from the bars in Pomona, but what did I do? I pulled out in front of a cop. Like, I seen a car coming, and I pulled out in front of a cop. Like, skirt, I skidded out. I didn't know it was a cop though. And then I seen it was a cop, and I was just like, fuck. So they pulled me over. I got a DUI.
On your birthday?
It was maybe like, my birthday was during the week, and it was on the weekend.
Oh, okay.
So we waited till the weekend to go out.
Fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, damn.
So I had got my first DUI, and I went to jail for the night. The next morning, I remember I had a banquet, and I was late to the banquet, and it was like, I was just all fucking stressing out. I had maybe like $1,400 on me. The cops was like, why do you got so much cash on you? But I got out, I had 2 banquets that day, and the banquets were like all day long. They're like from 8 in the morning, we gotta get to work, set up, and then we're done maybe like 7. Because the first banquet's from like 8 to 2, the second banquet's from like 3 to 7, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I missed the first banquet because I was in jail. I got out, went to the second one. But you know, my life started really becoming unmanageable again. Like the unmanageability kicked in. I was trying to fucking scramble, live this life of drugs, live this life of work, and it was just like the drugs were overpowering it. So there was another time, like I would get high off meth too, and for some reason when I get high off meth, I love to walk around Pomona with my headphones on, rapping loud as fuck, with all this jewelry on. I had a grill on, and like I just love to be walking around downtown Pomona or like Pomona in general with my headphones on, rapping loud as fuck in the middle of the night. Like I don't know why I just
You never know when you're gonna get signed, bro.
Yeah, I was just trying to walk the streets, rapping, get signed, like fucking in the middle of the night, like a weirdo. I just love doing it though.
That's what drugs do, bro. I've had my fucking moments where it's like, what the fuck are you like? They don't make sense, dog. But when you're high, it just does. It's just like, this is a good idea.
Yeah, I used to love doing it. So I remember I went to work. I came home from work. I stopped at Applebee's. I ordered myself some food. I ordered a drink. The lady asked me for my ID. I didn't have my ID on me. And she's like, well, I can't serve you because you don't have an ID. I'm like, oh, what the fuck? All right, so I went home. And then I was just like, fuck, I really wanted a drink. So I'm like, I'm going to go to the bar. But because I had just got a DUI, I'm like, I'm going to walk to the bar. Because I don't want to drive.
Right. You don't want
and if I'm going to go drink right now. But I'm like, okay, because I'm going to walk to the bar and I'm in Pomona and I got all this jewelry on me and I got all this money in my pocket and I got this grill in my mouth, I'm going to take a gun because I had a little gun. So I took my gun.
Damn.
I walked to the bar. I'm sitting at the bar. I order a drink and there's this chick dancing on the dance floor. And like, she looks at me and she's like got this little fucking top on, this little skirt on. She looks like a prostitute. But yeah, and I see her and I smile at her and she sees my teeth and everything. And then like I just go back to drinking my drink and then the next thing I know she's like pulling me off the bar to go dance with her.
Right, of course.
So I'm like, fuck it. And I had like a coat and I went and I danced with her. I threw my coat on the chair and I'm dancing with her and this bitch is like backing it up on me. She's like, boom, 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 backing it up on me like so hard. Like she's trying to knock me over. I'm like,
she's
whoa,
like to get all your cash and your jewelry off you.
Yeah. Know? She was like, boom, boom, and I was just like, damn, girl, calm down. And then she knocked the gun out, and the gun fell on the floor.
Loaded gun?
It was loaded, yeah. And then we both she stepped on it. Like we kind of both stepped on it at the same time because we were dancing. And then she looks down at it, and I look down at it. I'm just like, oh shit! And I picked it up and I put it in my pocket. And then she's like, I didn't see nothing, and she walks off right away, like from fucking dancing, and then all of a sudden she got scared, like, oh shit, it's a real one, like I'm gonna walk away.
Yeah.
She walked away. So I grabbed my coat and I fucking went back to the bar and I'm just like, should I finish my drink? Should I play it off? Should I act cool? Should I bounce? And then I was just like, can I have my tab? And I remember I was trying to think like, what should I do? Like, just act cool like nothing happened, or should I just bounce? Should I wait for my shit? And it was maybe like 2 minutes. I didn't even get to finish my thought process. I got a tap on the shoulder. I heard someone say like, we want to talk to you. And I look and it was a cop. And I was just like, oh shit. I stood up and there was another cop and they just tackled me.
Yeah.
And I fucking had a loaded gun in my pocket.
And they busted you for that?
And they busted me for a loaded gun. Second gun charge now.
Fuck.
The first gun charge I went to prison. This is the second loaded gun charge. And I'm just like, fuck man, I got work in the morning. I got a banquet. Another banquet I'm going to be late for. Fuck. And they're just like, well, we're going to let you go then because you got work. I was like, really? They're like, no. I was just, but my homegirl from my hood that put me on, like, I remember she bailed me out that night.
Oh, for real?
She bailed me out that night.
You made it to work.
I made it to work, luckily.
Okay, cool.
But the next morning, they wound up firing me from work, though, because I told them what happened.
Shit. Like, you had to come clean?
Well, I probably didn't have to, but I knew something was gonna happen.
So you're at your second gun charge already. Luckily, you got bailed out, and your homegirl bailed you out, right?
Yeah, my homegirl from my hood bailed me out. I remember she's like, I know you got a job. I know you're doing good. You know, I don't want you to lose your job. I'm gonna bail you out. She put up the money. I don't know how she did it, but she put up the money. I got bailed out that night. I remember I was walking back to my pad in Pomona, and I had to walk by the bar in order to get to my pad, and it was the bar that I got busted at, because it was like I live on this street, like it's like Holt right here and Gary, so I live like right the next street after Holt, which is called Pasadena. I lived on Pasadena, then the bars are right here, and then I forget this other street, what it's called, Mission, and the police station's on Mission, so it's like Mission, the bar, Holt. So I fucking walked from Mission back to my pad, and I passed the bar. And I fucking seen that same bitch, dude.
The same one, same shirt
same
too.
bitch. Yeah, probably, yeah, same shirt, same fucking clothes.
Oh, shit.
But she looked at me and she looked like she seen a ghost. And I was just like, ooh, this bitch. And I left my card in there. I had a vape. I left it in there. I'm like, should I go back in and get it? And I'm just like, nah, fuck that shit. So I went home. And, you know, I wound up telling my roommates, like, yeah, I got arrested, but I'm cool. But, you know, I knew I was gonna go back to prison. I'm like, fuck, I went to prison for the first one. I'm gonna get charged for this one. So I wound up going to court. I told my job what happened. They eventually let me go. They're just like, you know, you're a great worker when you're here, but it's when you're not here is the problem. Like,
right.
At work, you're such an amazing worker, but when you're not at work, you seem like you can't control yourself. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to let you go. They wound up letting me go. And I remember I just went into this super deep depression. That's when like I really went into like one of the deepest depressions in my life, because, you know, I was working, doing good. I was so motivated. I built up all this stuff, and like you said, it was with honest money. It wasn't hustle money. It wasn't drug money. I remember when I first got out of prison, like I vowed, like I'm never gonna sell drugs again. Like I'm done selling drugs. Because every time I sell drugs, like I just wound up building some shit up and losing it. Building some shit up and losing it. And making some friends and losing them. And then making some friends and figuring out they're burning me or they're no good or whatever, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm not gonna sell drugs anymore. I'm just gonna do good and I'm gonna fucking earn my shit. I did it, then I started using drugs again. And I was just so depressed. And I went to court. And I remember the public defender told me, like, I was going to try to say, like, that gun was already there, or who knows who dropped that gun. That could have been anyone's gun.
Yeah.
But the public defender was just like, well, one, like, in the police report, it said in the police report that the security guard is the one who called the police. Probably because the girl went and told the security guard, and the security guard called the police.
Yep.
But it said in the report that the security guard seen me drop the gun. I realized that girl who was dancing probably worked there. Yep. Because she was still there, and I remember when I walked by that night, it was like closed, and she was in there wiping some shit down, and she seen me. There. Yeah, so I'm like, she probably worked there. But the public defender was like, okay, well, we could say that, but look, you already got a loaded gun charge. Like, luckily, I had just got off AB 109, like maybe a couple weeks before, right? Because I would, yeah, right on time, because I would have been fucked if not. Yeah. But he's like, look, you already got one gun charge. You got all these other charges for drugs. I had got another charge for brass knuckles, which I got a felony for.
And then that DUI too?
And then the DUI.
Fuck, okay.
And he's just like, look, we could try to fight it, but honestly, I don't advise it. Because, you know, you don't know if they have cameras there. They could say, did you see cameras there? I'm like, no. And, you know, he asked me, was it your gun? And I tried to lie to him at first. Like, no, it wasn't. Like, because they did pat me down when I went in, but they missed it.
That's on them then, right? Like, that, you probably could have had a case, though. That's on... But then again, like, if they did have cameras...
Well, you know what? Actually, I'm lying. Because they didn't pat me down. Because they do pat you down when you go in that bar, but I knew I had a gun on me. So I went and, like, it was on a kind of like a main street, and they had, like, a little rope. And I just dipped under the rope.
Fucking did some
Well, the dude was patting down someone else. Like, I waited and I just dipped under the rope and I just went in. Okay. So, but I was gonna try to say, because I was like, well, the dude patted me down when I went in. Like, I was trying to lie and say he patted me down, but he really didn't. But even if he did, like, you know what I mean? Still. Yeah. And they're like, they don't know if there's cameras in there. It's their word against yours. If there are cameras and it sees you drop the gun, like, you're automatically fucked. He's like, check it out, because I got bailed out. Like, I went to court in a suit and tie, and like I was all, You know, I try to make myself presentable.
Right.
And he's like, check it out. The DA doesn't want to mess with this case. Like, the first gun charge, I got 16 months with half.
Right.
So he's like, look, the DA doesn't want to mess with this case. If you want to fight it, we can fight it, but it doesn't look good. But it's up to you. It's your case. Your max is 4 years, 8 months. But the DA says if you take a deal right now, he'll give you 16 and a half. They'll give you 30 days to handle all your affairs, and you could turn yourself in 30 days.
That's the route you went?
Yeah, I was just like, well, fuck. I could fight it. I really wanted to fight it because I was just like, fuck, I don't want to go back to prison. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean?
You're going to have to kick again?
16 months with half.
Was that the main concern?
No, the main concern was just like, fuck. Prison, just like, I don't want to go back to prison. Like, it's like, fuck. No one wants to go to jail, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I just want to stay out here and fucking party. Like, but I just lost my job. I took the deal because I was just like, well, fuck it. If I lose, I'm like, well, what if I lose? They're like, if you lose, you're getting 4 years, 8 months. Like, they're gonna max you out. Right. And I was just like, fuck. If I lose, I'm gonna be fucking pissed. I didn't take 16 months.
Chances are you were gonna lose that one regardless.
Yeah, chances are I'm gonna lose that one regardless because, you know, it's their word against mine, and they probably did have cameras. Who knew? But so I took the deal, and the gun was in my pocket. Like, if it wasn't my gun, why would it be in my pocket when they picked me up? You know what I mean? Yep. I would say, oh, I just found it and put it in my pocket. I thought it was a toy. Like, that's what I was really trying to say.
It had the orange tip on it.
Yeah, because it was a little tiny gun. It fit in your hand, but it wasn't gonna work out.
Right.
So I took the deal, and I remember I was just in such a dark depression. Like, I was in my room just shooting up. I remember someone I work with now. He's like my good friend who got me into treatment. Like, he would come over and he would just see all these needles around the room, and he'd just be like, dude, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, what are you going through right now? And I was just so depressed. I was so pissed off, and I was just like using heroin to numb the pain. And I remember, like, Bone Thugs and Harmony on my shit. So I'd just be bumping Bone Thugs, like sitting there crying, rapping and shit, just like crying to myself. Like, I was just in such a deep depression. And like, I started kicking it with some girl, Andrea. Like, I've known her for a long time, but she lived up the street from me. So I remember she was just like, you know, just come stay with me. Just come stay with me, and like, just stay with me until you bounce. So I would go kick it with her, and she was just gonna be like, what are you gonna do with all your stuff? And I'd be like, man, fuck all that stuff. Like, I don't even want it. God, thank God for her, because she made a good point. She's like, you know what, Andrew, you worked for all this shit. Like, she's like, you worked for all this shit. Like, if you let it go, you're gonna regret it. Like, all the other shit you've lost in your life, like, you've done dirty, you got dirty, it was all dirty money. But this shit you actually worked for, and it's yours. Like, when you're in a different state of mind, you're gonna regret just saying fuck all your shit. Right. So she helped me go pack up all my shit. We packed it up. But I remember I was so stuck on the drugs still. Right. My grandma was calling me. My grandma would call me. She'd be like, mijo, please just come over here before you turn yourself in. Like, I need to see you before you turn yourself in. Please come over here. Come stay with me until you go to jail. Just let me love you till you're gone. And I remember I had like 2 weeks, a week left, and I still wouldn't go see my grandma, and she was calling me, mijo. And I didn't go to my grandma's house until the night before I had to turn myself in. So I went to my grandma's house, and my dad went, my dad went, my little sister went, my dad's wife went, and we just kicked it. Like, we drank a little bit. I did some dope, and me and my dad just kicked it. And I remember sitting there talking to my grandma, and we were eating dinner, and all of a sudden, like, she's trying to keep herself cool, and she just like goes like that. Like, she just was gonna lose it. Yeah, she breaks down, and it was like the hardest thing I had to see, like, I put my grandma through. And that woman has loved me no matter what I've done the whole time. She's always loved me. And you know, so it's the night before I gotta turn myself in. My grandma goes to sleep around 2 a.m. I'm just like, Grandma, I'll be back. I fucking dip out. I go to my homie's house, my little Asian homie, and I'm like, bro, I gotta turn myself in. I'm going back to prison tomorrow. And he was just like, he was my little Asian homie, my little heroin addict homie. And rest in peace, China man. I miss you, bro. But
he passed away.
Yeah, he OD'd. Fuck. And I went to his house, and we were in his garage getting high. And then he's like, man, just don't turn yourself in. Just go on the run and fuck it. Like, just let's kick it. I was like, bro, if I go on the run, I'm gonna get 4 years. Like, fuck that. I'm just gonna go do this 16 months. Only 8 months. I'm gonna just go do this 8 months, and I'm gonna fucking be done with it. And then he was just like, all right. And it was maybe around 4 or 5 in the morning. and I was walking out, and I seen him like nodding out, and then he's like, here's something for your butt cheeks, and he throws me like a fucking fat gram of heroin. I was just like, all right, thanks, and then I'm going to leave, and he's just like nodded out sick. I'm just looking at him. I'm just like, hey, bro, you better not die on me while I'm in prison.
Fuck.
And then he's just like, nah, I'm gonna wait till you get out and we'll die together. And I was just like, all right, cool. Like, fuck it.
I mean, that's not the way it worked out.
Nah, that's not. Well, I wound up getting out, and he wound up ODing like a little while after I got out the second time.
Oh shit, dude.
But that was my boy. I love him, my boy Chinaman. So I wound up going to prison the second time, and the second time I went to prison, I was just like, well, fuck it, I'm back. I'm in prison. Second time I drank, I did drugs, I did heroin, I did whatever I could.
Inside?
Yeah, inside. First time I didn't do anything. I just drank once or twice. Second time I was just like, well, fuck it, I'm here. My mindset was just like, well, fuck it, I'm in prison. Like, I'm turned up. Like, I'm in prison, I'm turned up. So, the second time I got out of prison, I was just like, I was depressed. I wasn't in the same mind frame that I was when I got out.
So you got out and you were still using heroin and shit.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, when I got out the second time, I would think about the first time I got out. I'm like, I got out the first time, I was so motivated, I got a job, I was so happy. I'm like, how am I ever gonna get a good job like that again? Like, that's where I was. And my grandma moved from Ontario, because the first time I got out, I was in Ontario, my job was in Rancho Cucamonga, so it was just like the next city over. Right. I could ride a bike to work. When I got out the second time, I went back to my grandma's, but now she had moved to Corona. Corona was like in the middle of nowhere. And I was just like, man, how am I going to get a job out here? I'm in the middle of nowhere. How am I ever going to get a good job like I did? I got no car, I got nothing. So, I would just be at my grandma's house. I'd get up in the middle of the night and I'd go walk the streets of Corona, meet the bums, and I'd fucking get high with the bums. I knew I would know where to find drugs because I just go find a homeless person. I find a bum, like, hey, where's the drugs at? And they'd eventually take me. And I wound up meeting this person, that person, and it started again.
And you were staying at your grandma's at this point?
I was staying at my grandma's at this point. And then eventually I would come back and I would go to Skid Row. I had a homie who fucking lived on Skid Row. My homie, remember I told you my homie who I went to his house at first? And his mom was like the party house?
Right.
Well, his mom eventually wound up losing that house, moving in with her brother, and the son was a drug addict because I got high with him, but he wound up winding up on Skid Row. I hadn't seen him in forever, but the next time I seen him, he was on Skid Row. So I would go meet his mom, who was in a wheelchair, and wheelchair her out to Skid Row, and we'd be out there for like 4 or 5 nights just on Skid Row getting high in her son's tent. Like it was the craziest shit.
What is that culture like, being in Skid Row? Like is everybody like, is it like a freaking rave going on? Like, are people just tripping out? Like, what is that like for someone that hasn't experienced that? Like, what's the best word you can describe that?
Skid Row is honestly a dark place. It's a dark place, and if you cannot operate in the darkness, like I was good at operating in the darkness. It's a scary place, and it's a sad place, and everyone's soul, you can tell everyone's soul is hurting, and the people who aren't hurting, they're off, and they're just like, they're so lost. It's like a place of the damned. That's what it's like. It's like, it's like a place where all the people that are damned to go, and there's people that can get out of it, but a lot of those people, it's like the land of the damned. It's crazy to describe it, but the energy there is just so chaotic and unsettling and dark, and I always loved that shit though, because I could feed off that energy. There's positive energy and there's good energy. And the life I was living, I was so good at operating in negativity that I would feed off the negative energy. Mm-hmm. Like it was
boosted you up.
It was crazy. It was so crazy.
That's a trip. That's how deep in it you were. It was like your second home already. You were just like,
yeah,
and
I would go to Skid Row, and like these people see me, and I would always present myself. I've never let myself look like. One thing my dad always taught me when I was young, he's just like, if you never have a penny in your pocket, never look like you don't have a penny. You could be broke and have nothing, but never look broke, because if you look broke, people aren't going to respect you. So he's like, even if you don't have a penny in your pocket, never let people know that, because if you do, they'll never respect you. So I always kept that with me. So I would always like be presentable, but I'd be in Skid Row, and I may be on drugs, but my marbles are still there. Like my screws are tight enough. A lot of these people's screws are loose and they've lost their marbles.
Right.
And I would really just like take advantage of these people. Like I manipulate these people.
You would thrive in there.
I would thrive because I could take advantage of all these people. I'd have jewelry on. I'd be like, I'd be the shit in Skid Row because like, yeah, look, I got jewelry. I got a little bit of money in my pocket. All you motherfuckers ain't got nothing. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like being the best of the fucking worst. You know what I mean? That's what I thought I was. Like I was like the best of all the worst. Like, and for some reason, like I thought that was cool because
You like
I
that
couldn't
feeling?
fit into society and the normal people. So at least here with these people, like I'm better than them. Like I felt like I was better than them.
That makes sense.
And
That makes sense.
you know, I would run it and I would fucking try to fucking politic on people and I'd run game on people and I'd just be like, I push people around and I just bully people around in Skid Row because they were like the easiest people to do it to.
You prey on them.
I prey on them, exactly. And it was kind of like a fucked up thing because I couldn't stand it when people did that to other people. You know what I mean? But I got to a point where I was so low where I had to just survive it. I put myself in that position and I was just like, I would thrive off it. It was crazy. It's like I felt like I would feed off it. Like that negative energy, I would feed off it. I was like a shark, and if I smelt like these people were just like a little weak, I would go for them. Like, and it was crazy. And they're like that too, though, because
Survival of the fittest.
if they see you and you're in Skid Row and you look like you don't know what you're doing or you don't belong there, or they think you're a cop, they're gonna put people on you to test you. They're gonna put people on you to follow you around. And if you show any sign of fear, they're gonna fucking prey on it. And I noticed it, and I would see them like when I first come around, they would be like they'd have people follow me around. And I just turn around and be like, what the fuck you doing? You want to follow me around? Like, what's up? I ain't no fucking cop. And then all of a sudden, like, I flipped it on them and they realized, like, oh shit, he ain't a cop, or he ain't just like someone trying to come through and be nosy. Like, he knows what's up. And then all of a sudden, like, I flipped it on them, and now, like, it was just like a power game. You know what I mean? Like a power, like trying to control their minds and shit. It was just a trip.
It's a trip, bro. It's like a whole nother world over there. They got their own politics. They got their own fucking officials and shit. People watching.
Yeah, and they got their own areas where like where the homies kick it right here, the blacks kick it right here. They got like they got the Cubans that kick it in another area.
Oh shit, it's like that over there.
Yeah. So like they got an area where like the Cubans kick it. The Cubans are kind of more like, the Cubans aren't like bums really, but they got like the shops. The Cubans are like the shop owners that are like, and there's just like a little Havana area, and the Cubans are kind of just like, you know, they move stuff, and they're like the shop owners, but they're all shady.
Right.
And then they got like the area for the homies, and all the homies are in tents in this area, and they got the area for the blacks, and all the blacks are in areas in this tent, and like, you know, they got little sections. So, you know, I would maneuver through all that, and like I loved it, and I would be there for maybe like 4 or 5 days, and I'd bounce, and I'd go back to wherever I was at, but then I'd come back for maybe like a day at a time. So I never actually lived on Skid Row.
But you were there a lot.
I was there kicking it.
You were
a lot.
fucking running Skid Row. Though.
Yeah, I was there kicking it a lot, like just influencing people there. Like I just wanted to make my influence, like let people know I was there.
That's a trip, dude. And then you did that pretty well. One thing I want to talk about is I know you mentioned you were freaking you were hospitalized at one point. Take me through that trip. Like, how was that like? And I know you were like shooting dope there at the hospital.
Yeah, so there was a point. So after this, I moved out to the desert. I had a friend who I knew through another friend, and he lived out in the desert. He was gonna go to rehab, and he was just like, "Yo, can you come watch my place? I got this roommate who's a tweaker, and I don't trust him." And you know, even though I've always done drugs and I've always I've always partied. Since I started using drugs, like I never stopped. Till like I got clean, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I've always been an honest person. Like I've never stolen from people. I never lied from people. If I took something from someone, I took it from their face. Because they owed me money. I'm like, I'm taking this shit's mine.
You fucking took
I
your
never,
teeth.
yeah. I never burned nobody. I never stole from nobody. If I'm telling you I'm gonna do some shit or I'm about some shit, I'm about it. So people always knew me for that. Like, yeah, this fool's solid. This fool's solid. Like, if you need something, you can hit this fool up. If he tells you he'll do it, he'll do it. If he can't, he'll tell you he can't or he won't. And so people knew me as that. So I had a buddy who was gonna go to rehab, and he was just like, "Yo, I need you to come," because you know he only had other drug addict friends, and he's like, "My roommate's a tweaker. I need you to come fucking stay at my pad and just watch my shit while I'm in rehab, because I don't trust this fool."
Right.
So I was like, "All right, cool. I got a place to go for 3 months while this was in rehab. fuck being out here. I'm just gonna go to the desert. Now I'm cool for 3 months. I got nothing to worry about. So I went out to the desert. I'm staying at this fool's pad, and I'm still using. I'm still partying, and I'm getting high the whole time. Now I'm in the casinos, stuck in the casinos, getting high in the whole time, and it got so bad, bro. I remember me and my little Asian homie who passed away. We would go to the fucking Commerce Casino, and we would fucking need a needle, and we would literally go in that fucking box that's on the wall and just pull a needle out. And we would always carry some bleach with them, and he would just just pulling out random needles from that little box and just bleaching them out. Like, how fucking dirty and sick is that, bro? That's where I was at. Dang. But I went out to the desert. I'm still getting high. I'm still using, still partying. The homie goes to rehab. He eventually gets out of rehab, and then he sees like, oh fuck, now you're all fucked up. I'm clean. I've been in rehab for 3 months. He comes out with a changed perspective on life.
Right.
Changed everything. He's a different person. He's still clean to this day.
That's good.
And my homie was smart. He was a businessman. He lived out in the desert. He was a businessman. He invested in Bitcoin back when Bitcoins were $90 a piece.
Bro, right now that's just at 20K almost right now.
He bought 300 Bitcoins when they were $90 a piece. So now imagine how much they are. Like, how much money he made.
Almost on.
That fool's like literally like a millionaire. He is a millionaire.
That's crazy, dog.
Because he bought 300 Bitcoins when they were 90 bucks.
This the homie that went to rehab, and then he would ask you to watch his spot?
Yeah.
So he came back from rehab, and like...
He came back from rehab. He was a different person. He was a changed person. And he seen me all fucked up. And he was just like, yo... They eventually wound up kicking out his roommate because his roommate was fucking... His roommate didn't want me there because his roommate wanted to fucking go in his closet. His roommate was jacking shit from him.
So you were guarding his shit?
I was guarding his shit, and that's why he had me go over there.
Alright.
So, eventually, like, he would ask me, like, hey, what's this fool doing? I'm like, yeah, this was going in your shit. Like, this was taking your shit. So they eventually kicked him out, but this would try to throw a fit and, like, say, no, I'm not leaving. This is my house. But they eventually, like, kicked him off the lease. They fucking made him leave. So now I'm there by myself. This fool winds up getting out of rehab, seeing me there, but I'm still fucking strung out partying. And he was just like, you know what? This fool's got money. He was like, I'll pay for you to go to rehab. He's like, I'll buy you insurance and I'll pay for you to go to rehab.
That's a homie right there, right?
That is a friend. That's a real friend right there.
Did you go through it?
I didn't. I was still too stuck in my ways. So, I'm trying not to use in front of him. He's taking me to AA meetings. He's taking me to NA meetings. And, I love this guy. This guy's like a true friend.
Fucking sounds solid as fuck.
Yeah. So he tried to save me. But, he can't do more work than I'm willing to do. But he tried to plant the seeds. And honestly, he did plant the seeds. He planted seeds in there.
Look at you now.
And so eventually he had to tell me, yo, you gotta go. Like, you know what I mean? He bought me insurance. He set me up to go to rehab. The day came, I didn't go. So he's like, all right, well, you can't keep staying here like this. Like, you gotta go. So eventually I left his pad, and now I'm just like running the streets in the desert, slamming heroin, using. So one day I'm at some other friend's house. Me and the other homie are at his pad just partying. This was letting me like stay in his living room and shit, partying, getting drugs. Like, I'm trying to sell drugs here and there, but I'm mostly just using them.
Right.
And I do a shot of heroin and I miss and I get an abscess.
Oh fuck.
And that's happened before, and the abscesses have gone away. And for some reason, this abscess didn't go away. A week went by and that shit didn't go away. And that shit, my arm was like big, red, and swollen, and that shit was like throbbing. You know, like that throbbing feeling? Like it was like boom, boom, boom. Like there was a heartbeat, and I was just like, fuck. I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna thug it out. And another week went by, 2 weeks went by, and that shit was big and red as well, and that shit hurt. I'm just like, yo, these shits usually go away in like 3 or 4 days. Like, it's been 2 weeks. I wound up getting so, like, it was making me, it hurt so bad, and I was in so much pain, like, it was making me nauseous and like feel sick. Well, I went to the hospital, and they were just like, they checked it out, and they're like, bro, you got fucking MRSA. And they were just like, what? I was just like, what the fuck? They're like, yeah, you got MRSA.
It's like a strong bacteria, right?
Yeah, it's like a staph bacteria that shit can kill you. Like, that shit eats away at your body. And
so did the abscess help with that, or like, I mean, did it make it worse? Was it because of the abscess?
Well, the abscess, I don't know why. I think it was just like from from like, you know, using so much. But because of the abscess, I think that's where the MRSA started. But then I wound up getting a blood clot. Luckily, I got that blood clot in my arm. That's why my arm was big, red, and swollen. And it turned into MRSA. But luckily, that blood clot was there. Because if it wasn't there, they said that the MRSA would have went to my heart. And that shit would have killed me.
Dude, that's no joke right
So I went to the hospital the first time. And they're just like, yeah, you got MRSA. We need to admit you. And I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm not going to the hospital. Fuck it. And I bounced. And I bounced from the hospital. And I fucking was still getting high, and I called someone that I knew, and they're like, what happened at the hospital? And they're like, I'm like, oh, they said I had MRSA. And they're like, what the fuck? I'm like, what? And they're like, bro, you gotta go to the hospital. That shit's serious. Like, that shit kills people. And I was just like, fuck, for real? And they're like, yeah, you gotta go take care of that. So I eventually wound up going back to the hospital, taking care of it. I was on a drip IV for 3 months, and that shit literally made me so sick, like I almost died.
It's a strong antibiotic.
Yeah, and I got so sick to the point where I was bedridden. I couldn't move. Like, I literally couldn't move. They had me on morphine. They had me on a drip IV. And they took... My mom had moved to Maryland at this point. My mom moved to Maryland to get away from all the bullshit. And they called my mom. They're like, yo, your son doesn't look like he has very long. Like, you maybe want to come down and fly in.
Yeah.
So my mom flew in from Maryland. And she was there with me at the hospital. But before my mom had flew into Maryland, like, I had my friends coming. And, you know, when you get in the hospital, they drug test you and they draw your blood and all this shit. And they see all your blood levels. And they're like, damn, this was on a lot of drugs. And they're like, all right, cool. So they check my blood levels. Then the next day they check my blood levels again. And I got, like, homies in the hospital with me. Because they, you know, when you go to the hospital, they let people come and see you.
Right.
So they're checking my blood levels every day. And they're just like, how the fuck are your blood levels, the drugs in your blood going up? Like, how
Can they spot the heroin in you?
Yeah.
Because you're doing heroin still in the hospital.
Yeah, because I have my people in there, they're bringing me in drugs, and they're drawing my blood every day, checking my blood
levels. It was
levels.
all in one arm, or like you were using the other arm? Or like...
So I had a drip IV in one arm, and then I was shooting up in the other arm. Like, one arm a needle in antibiotics, and the other arm a needle in heroin. That shit was fucking crazy. And, you know, these people are bringing me in drugs, and the hospital's like, what the fuck? How the fuck are you still, like, getting high in here? And one time the nurse came in and my homie was in the bathroom because I had like a little bathroom with the shower in there, and the homie was in there with some girl, and they're in there fucking tweaking out or whatever.
Oh shit! Hospital or hotel?
Yeah. I was treating it like it was a hotel, and the fucking homie comes out. The nurse walks in and she's like gonna give me my antibiotics or something, and the homie walks out of the bathroom with like a pipe in his hand, and he's in a towel, and the girl's in a towel, and it's all steamy, and like all this steam comes out, and the fucking nurse looks at them, and she looks at me, and she looks at them, and she's just like, no, you cannot do this. You cannot do this.
And they let you stay?
And they let me stay. They were that hospital. I gotta fucking give it up for that hospital. It was Eisenhower Hospital in Rancho Mirage. Those motherfuckers dealt with me, and they literally tried to save my life. There was so many times where I'm just like, I'm gonna leave. Fuck this. They're like, you cannot leave. What do you need? We'll give you what you need. Please don't leave. They eventually cut people off. They didn't let anyone fucking come and see me. But they were just like, please don't leave. They were begging me to stay there. They were really genuinely trying to save my life. And I was just being such an asshole, such a dick, trying to party while they were trying to save my life, making things harder for them. You know what I mean?
So did you kick heroin in the hospital, or like what happened after they stopped?
No, because people? I eventually, when I knew they were gonna stop letting people see me, I was just like, okay, well, I won't have anyone over tomorrow. Like, today's my last day. And I had someone bring me in enough heroin so I could sustain myself.
Right.
So then I just had like a cool little amount, and no one else came except for my mom. They told my mom everything I was doing. And my mom's like, what the fuck, are you crazy? Like, this hospital's trying to save you. Are you stupid? You're giving them a hard time? Bringing people over partying here? Like, this isn't a hotel room. So after 3 months of being in the hospital, they're just like, okay, they're checking my blood. They eventually realized like this was not gonna stop getting high. We don't have anyone here anymore, and he's still getting high somehow. Like, fuck it, we're just gonna work with them how we can. So they eventually just like stopped asking me about the drugs, because every day they're just like, why are you still doing drugs? Are you still doing drugs? How are you doing drugs? And I would just lie, like, no, I'm not. Eventually they just were just like, fuck it. At least no one's here anymore. Yeah, at least no one's here anymore. Only his mom could come in. Let's just try to save his life. So they got rid of the MRSA. They did all these tests on me. They're like, you're fucking lucky, man. The MRSA's gone. They took me off the drip IV, and they're like, okay, you're cleared. They're just like, take this bottle of antibiotics till it runs out, and when it runs out, you're good. So they cleared me of the MRSA, and still after they discharged me from the hospital, I wound up going back to someone else's pad and trying to sell heroin for him, and just.
So you went right back at it, like that wasn't your bottom. That was like it didn't stop you you just kept going.
Yeah, I just kept going.
What was that low point that you had to hit, like for you to like, I need to go to rehab, I need to, check in somewhere, like how did you get to that point? I mean, because I feel like you've been through so much at this point. You're just like up and down, and you kicked in jail, like that didn't stop you. You were doing it in the hospital, and then now like you have an opportunity with your homie that fucking made money off the Bitcoin, is trying to like buy your insurance and all, like what's going on in your mind at this point?
Yeah, man. My friend even told me like, get clean and hang out with me, and I'll make you a millionaire. The drugs were more important to me at that time.
Oh,
but
that's crazy how strong this disease is.
Yeah, because my homie would tell me like, you need to be around people with my mind frame. He's like, I've made it in this world. He's like, you go get clean and you come hang out with me, and I'll mentor you, and I'll guarantee you'll be a millionaire in 5 years.
Bro, mentorship, bro.
And I was just like, man, fuck that. I want to get high. Like, so my lowest point was, okay, so after I got out of the hospital, I'm still running around the desert. One day I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna try to go to rehab. I went for maybe like, I was there for 4 hours, and I was just like, man, fuck this, I'm leaving. Like, I can't do this shit's too hard. I was kicking heroin.
Okay.
So I bounced from rehab. I went to right here in Pasadena, Impact.
Shout out Impact.
Yeah. So I was in Impact. I was there for 4 hours. I was just like, fuck this, I'm bouncing. So I bounced, and while I was in the hospital, I had called Social Security. I'm like, yo, I'm dying. Like, I'm literally dying. I have the paperwork here from the hospital. You could verify all this. So I got set up with Social Security. So they started sending me like money, like maybe $900,000 a month. So I started getting that money from Social Security. It took like 2 months. So by the time I got out of the hospital, like I had a little bit of money coming in. And so when I went to rehab, like I had this money on my card, and then I got out. I was at rehab for 4 hours. I bounced, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm not gonna do this. I can't do this. I went to Skid Row, and I fucking picked up some heroin, and like an hour later, I was in the tent shooting up in Skid Row. Back in Skid Row in the tent, shooting up, getting high. I called my homie from Sangra. He came to pick me up, and we were driving around hotels, casinos again, Commerce Casino, hotels. So
you liked the casino? You were coming up over there?
Yeah, I was coming up in the casino. I would come up a lot. Like, I was good at blackjack, but the thing that fucked me up is I started playing those stupid slot machines, and once I did that, I was always broke. I never played the slot machines. I always played blackjack, and I could sustain myself for a while doing that. But once I started on those slot machines, like, I won one big time, and
I got you hooked.
Chasing it, yeah.
Yep.
So, I remember walking out of Impact the first time, thinking to myself, like, fuck, what did I just do? Fuck, what did I just do? But the obsession was so strong, like, you need to get high, you need to get high. And the other side of my mind, I'm walking out, I'm just like, fuck, what did I just do? Like, fuck, what did I just do? And I'm just like, the more I'm thinking, like, fuck, what did I just do? The faster I'm trying to get to Skid Row, because I'm just like, fuck, I just want to get high, so I'm not thinking. Like, I'm having this battle in my head, you know what I mean? Like, no, like, why'd you leave? Like, you were there, like, you were there.
You were so close.
You were so close to, like, doing something different, but the obsession was so strong. I'm just like, fucking get to Skid Row, get high, just so you could stop thinking about it. And I got high, and all of a sudden, like, it was instant relief. I was just like, fuck, okay, well, fuck it, now I'm high. Let me call the homie, go to a hotel. So I remember I was running around the streets for a bit, thinking like, fuck, now I'm back to this again, back to this shit again. And I just remember saying like a prayer, like, God, like, if you're really out there and my life is really worth something, please just send me to jail. Do something. Like, I know I need to go to jail.
Because jail's the only way you could kick heroin.
Jail was the only way I was going to be able to kick.
Well, that second time you didn't. That second time it was like you had a different mindset, but now you're like wanting to go back. And speaking of prison, my bad, bro, like what was the toughest time in prison for you? Like, what was the darkest moment in there? Like, is it like how you see in the movies? Like, how was it kicking heroin in there? Like, what did you go through? What did other people see you as? Like, What was that shit like?
I mean, and the hardest time I had to kick in prison, in jail, was the last time I went. Was this very last time I went. I only went in for 30 days, but I had a kick, and I was like super strung out, and that shit was the hardest. But you know, county jails turned up because county is short timers. So county, anything like a year or less, you're gonna do in county. I mean, they can give you prison time in county, but that's kind of rare. That's only if you get a non-violent crime and you're doing prison time in county. But if you get any violent crime, or prison time is in prison. Anything else is county time. And county time, the most they give you in county is a county lit. It's like a county year. So county's like short term. County's turned up because everyone's trying to like run the pad. Everyone's trying to be the shot caller. And everyone's just like, you know, trying to politic. So county shit's turned up, shit's popping off. Everyone's trying to beat each other up. Homies are trying to get other homies beat up. Prison isn't like that so much. Prison is more respectful. In prison, they're not going to beat you up. They're going to stab you up. Like, they're going to fucking stab you. So in prison, people are a lot more respectful. People follow the rules a lot more because they know, like, fuck, if I break a rule or I fuck up, I'm not going to get beat up. I'm going to get fucking stabbed. So people follow the rules in prison. Prison's honestly a lot more peaceful to me because people are respectful. If they're not respectful, it's like if shit pops off in prison, it's a lot more serious than if it pops off in county, because shit's popping off in county all the time. But it's like people are getting beat up. If something pops off in prison, like I guarantee you someone's probably getting stabbed, someone's getting whacked, some shit's going down. And like I've been in those situations. But like even the prison guards, I remember I was in reception in prison and some dude fucked up and we had to like fuck him up. Like he wasn't gonna get stabbed, but he was gonna get fucked up because he dropped like a shank. Like he was walking, he dropped a shank, and like the black dude seen it. They're like, "Whoa, why has he got that big ass shank? We're just in reception. Like there's no need for all that." So they had to beat him up for that. But the homie straight up told the cop like, "Yo, we need to handle some business." And the cop's like, "Okay." Turned around and walked out.
Just like that.
Turned around, walked out. We handled what we had to handle. And the cop came back in like 10 minutes. He's like, "You guys done?" We're like, "Yeah, we're done. Thank you." So, you know, county's not like that. County's just like, county's different. County's a little more rowdy, but you know, you might get beat up in county, but in prison, like if you fuck up, you're probably gonna get hurt a lot more severely than
or die.
Or die, yeah. And so you know, that's that.
You went back to jail then.
Yeah, so I did wind up going back to jail. I went to. So I said, I'm out running the streets again, and I'm like, God, if my life is worth anything, like, please save me. Like, I said a prayer, I'm like, God, just please save me if my life is worth anything. You know, I said a prayer, I'm like, God, if my life is worth saving, just please save me. Like, just save me any way, anyhow. And I knew when I was saying that prayer, in the back of my head, like, I'm like thinking, like, fuck, jail's the only thing that's gonna save you. But I try not to think about it. I'm like, God, please save me. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, you're gonna have to get locked up because that's the only way you're gonna be you're gonna have to get forced to kick. So I wound up going to Skid Row with the homie to pick up some balloons again. I know where everything's at Skid Row, so I go to the tent I need to go to. I'm like, hey homie, like I'm here. It's Moreno. He's like, what's up? What you need? I'm like, I need 8. He's like, all right. Put the money in the tent. Fucking wait. He puts his little hand out. I get the shit. I'm like, cool. And I turn around and I fucking start walking back to the car. And as soon as like I turn around, like a cop turns the corner. And then like me and the cop lock eyes, and the cop's just looking at me. And I'm just like, oh shit. And I'm walking on this side of the street, and the cop's like going. And then all of a sudden the cop flips a bitch. And then I cross the street because the car's parked on this side of the street, but I cross the street.
Right. And
then the cop pulls up on the curb, like pulls up on me. And then, you know, when a cop stops you, there's 3 things you ask them in order to get away. There's 3 things.
All right.
So a cop stops you, right?
Up, people, listen up.
Here's a little lesson from the streets for y'all out there still running some crazy shit. So a cop stops you. First question, they're gonna ask you like, hey, what are you doing? What's your name? You got ID? You don't gotta answer any of that shit. All you gotta do is say, have I committed a crime? They're gonna ask you all these questions. First question you ask the police, have I committed a crime? No, you haven't committed a crime, but we're just trying to see what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. if they don't answer the question, you ask them again. Have I committed a crime? If you haven't committed a crime, they're gonna say no. We're just trying to see who you are. Have I committed a crime? Am I being detained? No, you're not being detained. We're just trying to figure out what are you doing. Do you have ID? What's going on? What's your name? Am I free to go? Have I committed a crime? No. Am I being detained? No. Am I free to go? They have to let you go.
Peace.
Have I committed a crime? Am I being detained? Am I free to go? You don't have to answer any of their questions. They're going to try to ask you a million questions. If you answer them, you're a sucker. But you don't have to answer their questions.
Straight up. Hey, so you got away then?
No, I didn't. So I asked the cop, have I committed a crime? He's like, yeah, you just jaywalked. I was just motherfucker got me.
Ass,
I was like, damn it, fucking well played, officer. Like, yeah, he got me. So I was just like, fuck.
So they fucking,
yeah, they're like, yep, you committed a crime. So now they can search me. Because they don't have the right to search me if I didn't commit a crime. And I'm not being detained.
So that's why they busted the bitch, because they saw you jaywalk.
Well, no, they didn't see me jaywalk. They just seen me walking, and like the cop said he seen me like, cause I was wearing a pair of sweats and I had some basketball shorts underneath. Mm-hmm. So when I seen the cop pass me, like he was kind of staring at me, and he drove up further, and then I put like the balloons in my basketball shorts underneath.
Right.
And apparently he says he seen me like put something in my pocket, and then he flipped a bitch. And as soon as he flipped the bitch, I crossed the street. Cause now like he's fucking coming, I'm on the opposite side of him, but then he just like stopped, cut me off. So he was right. I fucking jaywalked. So then he searched me, and he didn't find anything at first, like cause he was searching my sweats, my first sweats. So he put his hands in the pockets, and he didn't find anything. He put his hands in the back pockets, but I had the basketball shorts on underneath, and he kind of felt the balloons in my pocket, like he felt like the little bumps.
Yep.
But he didn't know what they were, because he was in the first pair of sweats. So he just like let it go.
Right.
So then they're like, what's your name? And I gave him my brother's name. I told him like, oh, my name's my brother's name. You know what I mean? And they were like, okay, look him up. And my brother's a good kid. My brother got a DUI one time years and years ago, but he took care of it, and that's all he's ever got in trouble for. So they looked up the name, and me and my brother look just alike.
Okay.
So they looked up the name, and they're like, he's got nothing. And the cop's like, what do you mean he's got nothing? And they're like, there's nothing on him.
Are you surprised and shit?
And the cop's like, no way. And he's like, yeah, look. He's like, he's got one DUI, but that was like 6 years ago, and he took care of it. And the cop showed him, and it's like my brother's picture, and it looks like me. And the cop's just like, no way. And then the cop starts patting me down again.
Again, even harder.
And he lifts my shirt, and then he could see like the basketball shorts. And then he goes like, he lifts my sweats out, he sees another pocket, and then he goes to start putting his hand in the other pocket. I'm just like, hey, like stop. And then he's just like, don't resist. And he puts his hand in the other pocket, and he pulls out the balloon. And I had my other ID. I had my actual ID.
Oh, you got burned twice right there.
So then he seen the balloons, and then I was just like, fuck it. I was just like, I lied. I told you I was my brother. Like, that's me right there. And then he's like, oh, false identification and heroin. So they took me to the police station. I wound up getting busted.
Your prayer got answered.
That's what I was thinking. I was just like, man, I fucking prayed for this. Like, I prayed for this. So the first 2 weeks, I wound up, they said, okay, you're going to do 30 days. We're going to let you out in 30 days with a misdemeanor charge. And that's it. So the first 2 weeks I was in jail, I was just trying to I was kicking so bad. And I could do nothing but kick. Just sit there and fucking kick. For the first...
What are the side effects to that? Like, what is, like, kicking? Like, what's the process?
It's like cold sweats. Like, I was sweating. My legs were just so achy. Like, my legs were achy. You're sweaty. You feel like you're going to throw up. Like, you can't eat. And luckily, some dude went in there. Like, I went in reception. Some dude had, like, a fucking piece of heroin in his ass. I don't know how the fuck he did that, but he had a fucking bunch of heroin. So we got high in reception, and that helped me taper off a little bit. But still, I kicked pretty bad. And so, like, the first 3 days, like, I was just, like, laying. I was in a 4-man cell. I was just, like, laying there sweating, like, kicking. And when you first get into county, the homies give you 3 days. But then after 3 days, you got to start programming. Like, they're like, okay, we know you're coming off the streets. We're going to give you 3 days where you could just chill. But after the third day, you got to get up and you got to program. Like, 10 to 10. You gotta work out if you're under 35. So I was just like, fuck, I was kicking so hard. But after the third day, like, I had no choice but to get up and program. Like, I couldn't just lay on my rack and be all fucking fucked up, because they would have a homie like, you know, up and down, like one homie out of the cell, and he's like a porter and he comes check on you. So I'm just like, fuck it. I just started like, then I was just like, I was trying to call everyone to get bailed out. I was calling everyone. No one wanted to fuck with me.
That's crazy, bro. Your prayer got answered. Like you prayed for that. It happened, and then you're still hitting people up to get you out.
Yeah, I'm calling everyone like, please bail me out. I got money on my card. I'll pay you as soon as I get out. And I was just so needing to get high. I just needed to get high, I was trying to get out so bad. So I just started working out. Maybe like a week went by, and then I just started working out. Like, fuck, I don't want to think about this. Like, when I go to jail, that's what I do. Like, I work out a lot because I get stressed out. Like, I would be on the phone making all these phone calls and no one would answer, or people would tell me no, and I'd hang up the phone and I'd just be so anxious and like the shakes. Like, you know what I mean? I'd just be like, fuck it, and I just start working out.
Yep.
So that helped me kick, right? So I kicked in jail. After 2 weeks of being in jail, I kicked. The drugs are out of my system. Now I go to court, they say, okay, you're getting out in 30 days. I've already done 15 days. I got 15 more days left. Now I'm scared to get out. Now I'm just like, okay, fuck, I'm off heroin. Now I'm not kicking anymore. But now I know if I get out, I'm gonna go right back to the same shit. I'm fucking scared to get out. Now I'm scared. I'm just like, fuck, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna go back to these drugs and be right back where I started. So 30 days passed. I wound up getting out. I went to my dad's house. And you know, I was trying to stay clean. Like, I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to stay clean. I might try to go to rehab. And my dad's like, well, you need to do something, because like, I can't have you here around your sister if you're gonna be getting loaded and all this shit. I also said another prayer in jail. While I was in jail, my sister's 13 years old. Since the day she was born, I never spent one holiday with her. Because since my sister was born, I've been on drugs. My sister's only known her drug addict brother. She never known this me that I am today. But my whole life, my sister's known me as a drug addict. And she's 20 years younger than I am. I never spent a single holiday with her because I've always been loaded. And when I was in jail, it was almost 4th of July. I got out June 28th or something. But I remember saying a prayer to God, like, God, I just want to spend one holiday with my sister. Like, please just let me spend 4th of July with my sister. Just one holiday. Like, if you let me spend one holiday with my sister, like, I'm going to try to change. Like, I didn't want to make no promises, but I was just like, I'm going to try to change this. Please give me one holiday with my sister. God opened up those gates for me at the 28th. On the 28th, they let me out. And I was just like, fuck. Like, two prayers.
Yeah.
Two prayers. Like, and that was really making me think, like, fuck. Like, this is the second prayer that's been answered. Like, is this just coincidence? Like, I really started thinking, like, fuck, that's weird. You know what I mean? So, I get out. I go to my dad's. I'm like, okay, we're going to spend 4th of July together. And then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do in life. Like, I'm going to figure out how I need to change.
Right.
Well, my dad let me use his car to go pick up some documents I had from my mom, like my birth certificate or something, just so I could have my legal paperwork. And I went to go pick up the paperwork from my mom, and I drank, like, me and my dad would drink, but I didn't use any drugs at the time. I just drank a couple beers with my dad. I went to go pick up the paperwork, and then I'm going back to my dad's, and my homie from Sandra that I fucking called while I was in Skid Row, I hit him up, and he's like, where you at? I'm like, I'm right here, I'm going home. I'm running through your neighborhood. He's like, stop by real quick. So I stopped by his pad. I'm just like, fool, I think I'm gonna go to rehab or something. Like, I'm gonna try to do something different. Like, I can't keep living like this. And he looks at me, he's like, oh, really? You want to go to rehab? He's like, all right. And he pulls out like a fucking ounce of dope and a pipe. And he packs it and he hits it. He's like, here. And I was just like, you motherfucker.
And this is crystal, right?
Yeah. And I just fucking hit the pipe. And I was just like, fuck. Here we go again. I went and I dropped my dad's car off. And I fucking bounced. And I went to a hotel room. And I never spent that 4th of July with my sister.
Damn, bro.
And that, honestly, that was my bottom. That was my bottom right there. Because, and I remember being in the hotel room on that 4th of July. 4th of July day came, and I remember being in the hotel room with the homie, some other weirdo that I have fucking no idea who he is, just some weird ass tweaked out fool and some tweaked out bitch that are all tweaked out, paranoid in the corner. And I'm right there. I remember it was at a Motel 6. I'm smoking dope on the bed. And it's 4th of July and you hear the fireworks going off. And I remember thinking about that prayer, like, fuck, I prayed to be with my sister for this holiday, and I'm in this hotel room smoking dope with these weird ass people. And I called my dad, and my dad answered. He's like, hey, where you at? I thought you were gonna spend the holiday with us. And I'm just like, I just wanted to call and like see what you guys were doing, you know what I mean? And then he was just like, well, we're at the park. Like, are you alright? It's like, what do you need? I was just like, nah, nothing. Like, I just wanted to call and see what my sister was doing. He's like, well, she's watching the fireworks. He's like, don't worry. Like, I knew you weren't gonna show up. He's like, I didn't even tell her you were gonna show up. And I was just like, all right, well, whatever. That was the moment in life where I'm just like, fuck. My sister is an innocent girl. Like, she never did nothing, no bad to me. And I asked God for just blessing to spend one holiday with my sister, and he gave it to me. And I felt like not only did I break a promise with God, like I broke a promise to my innocent sister who did nothing but love me. Like, you know what I mean? And seeing the bad in me. So, you know, that was my lowest point. Me feeling like I let my little sister down.
That's crazy the way that works, bro, because here you are, you went to prison, you've been through a lot of shit, maybe some fights, you know, you've been alone. And stuff like that with family and innocent people, like, you know, like your sister, that hits the hardest, right? Like,
yeah, definitely.
One time, like, I just want to share this with you, dude. Like, I remember this was my lowest point. It wasn't like me, you know, fucking drinking and driving and fucking, you know, losing my arm and all this shit that I've done that's pretty fucked up. It was me picking up coke drunk with my fucking 2-year-old son in the car seat. Like, who the fuck does that?
Yeah.
Putting them in danger. Like, when someone innocent like that is involved and you look back and you're just like, dude, like, this is a trip. Like, how can it get to this point? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just wanted to share that with you, bro, because I feel you on that.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, like, me, I wasn't enough. Like, my life wasn't enough for me to save my life. But for some reason, like, when God answered a prayer for me for my little sister, like, and I fucking threw it to the dope. Like, I put the dope above my sister. Like that was the point where, like, fuck, like, really, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, that's your sister. She's an innocent little girl. Like, she's done nothing wrong in this world, and you're gonna put the fucking dope pipe in front of her. That's when it really hit me. Like, fuck, you need to do something.
Did you slam heroin at this point? Or it was just crystal?
When I got out of jail this time, like, I didn't do heroin because I didn't want to get sick because I just kicked. So it was all just crystal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you still missed.
I still missed because I wound up going off on this tweaking binge.
But you never touched heroin after that.
I did maybe one time, like just once while I was out. I did heroin with some bitch I met on the street, but that was it.
But you were able to kick that, no problem after that?
Well, no, I didn't do it enough to get, like, sick.
Oh, okay.
I did it one time. So I got out of jail on the 28th, and then I wound up going into Impact on the 9th, I think, or the 10th. I went to Impact on the 10th. So I got out June 28th, I got out of jail. June 9th, I had a bed in Impact. So between that time, from June 28th to July 9th, what is that, maybe 10 days?
Yeah.
11 days? I did heroin one time, so I didn't do enough to get, like, back sick on it.
Okay, that's intense, dude. So then you go to rehab after this?
Yeah.
What are the next steps that you took? Like, how is it? All right, so you hit heroin just one time. You know, you felt like shit because, you know, you missed 4th of July with your sister. Now you're just like, fuck that. Like, do you feel motivated at this point to say, you know what? I'm going to spend time with my sister after this. I'm going to go to rehab. Like, what goes on after this?
So I wound up going to rehab, and, you know, I knew I needed to do something different. Like, I knew, okay, I can't keep doing what I'm doing. Like, I was at this lowest point because I did this to my sister. I felt like I broke a promise with God. And, you know, I honestly, I don't want to say no one forced me to go, because, you know, sometimes people go because they're court ordered or something. I went because I genuinely wanted to figure something else out. So I went in there, I just desperate and broken. Like, what can be different? I've tried everything else. Like, maybe I just need to try doing something different. And I honestly did. And I kind of just jumped into it, like I've always been the type of person who's kind of all or nothing. Like I was all about my drug use. I was all about the casino. I was all about my gangbanging. Like I was all or nothing. So, you know, it started off slowly, but I jumped into it. I seen the profound change it had on my friend's life who went through there and, you know, got a job and was a caseworker now and had a life. And my friend that I knew on the streets that I was using with. So I seen the profound change it made in his life, and I'm just like, man, if he could do it, why not me? So I just went and I just tried, and you know, I went through the program, I did the steps, I got a sponsor, and I just slowly started having these changes. Like I really had to let my ego go with the person who I thought I was, and you know, running game on people. Like I'm only cheating myself. So
big facts.
So it was like, it was just coming to a lot of realizations, and you know, people pulling me up on shit, and you know, I never been the type, you know, unless it's the cops or something, like I'm not really gonna lie to people. I'm just gonna be like, straight up, this is how it is, fuck it. Like this is how it is, this is what I'm doing. Like yeah, I'm a drug addict, so what? Like no, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm gonna fucking be honest, straight up, deal with it. Like unless it's the cops or my mom. Like I would lie to my mom, I would lie to the cops. I lied to those people in the hospital because they're like hospital people, you know what I mean? But people that I know and I associate with, like I'm not gonna lie to. There was a lot of times I got in trouble in the rehab, but I always was just like, yeah, I did it, like fuck it, like I fucked up. And that helped me get over a lot of things, like learning how to let my ego go and just deal with shit instead of like run from it or try to act like I didn't do something.
Was there something in particular you think you were running from, and what step was it that really said, you know what, like this is it right here? Like for me, it was a lot of shit in my childhood that I had to come to terms with, that where I was like, yo, like this is the reason why you're a fucking blackout drunk, you know, fucking cokehead.
Yeah, I think for me a big thing was like I was trying to be accepted. Like for when I was younger, my like I love my dad, and me and my dad got a great relationship now. But my dad has always been a big weakness of mine, because my dad, you know, my dad does what he does. Like he drinks and he would party too, but my dad isn't the type of partier like I am. Like I'm like a full-blown addict. Like I go out of control and I'm fucking all or nothing about the drugs.
Right.
Like my dad knows how to party and put it down and go to work. And like my dad knows how to party and fucking get up and go to work, and my dad can function. Like I can't fucking do drugs and function.
I mean, you could slang and shit and you could do all that, but at the same time, you know, you're on the inside, it's fucking
I'm dying, and no one wants to be around me, and none of the people that are around me like I could trust, or you know what I mean. So, you know, just trying to give my life over to something greater than myself, like having faith that something greater than myself will restore the sanity if I just have faith and trust the process. Like that's always been a big thing. Like, you know, like I don't want to do this shit. Like how is this shit gonna work? But just trusting the process has been like, you know, key pivotal moments in my life. I got put on a gag order while I was at the fucking rehab, and I couldn't talk to anyone for 72 hours and no one could talk to me. And I learned a lot through that. Like that was a big point in change too, because I realized like when I want to talk a lot and when I want to speak up and say something, it's because I'm either uncomfortable with what's going on around me or I'm uncomfortable with what's going on within me. And I want to interject my ego. Like I'll hear some people talking, shooting some shit about some war story, and I'll just want to interject my ego, like, oh yeah, I did that, or oh, I did that. Mm-hmm. And not being able to talk to anyone for 72 hours, I was able to just sit and listen to people and what they were saying and think like, what do I want to say right now? Why do I want to say that? Like, where is this coming from? This is all just ego. This isn't really me. This is me trying to look a certain way to appeal to someone's lifestyle. That's not really me, who I am, you know what I mean? So it was a lot about me getting in touch with me, like who I am, why I am me, why I feel this way, why do I feel the need to try to impress some people with some bullshit that doesn't matter, you know what I mean? So that was a big thing for me. Of course, step 4, I've been through all the steps. Step 4 was a big thing for me, getting all that stuff down on paper and being able to tell someone everything I did, and having someone not judge me for all the things I did, and having not to worry about like getting in trouble for some of the things I did. I'm just able to share it with somebody, and making amends was a big thing for me, because a lot of times I didn't feel complete. And I didn't feel complete because I knew I harmed so many people. And it was like, I didn't just harm them, like a piece of me I chipped off, because like, fuck, it hurt my heart that I did this to my mom. It hurt my heart that I did this to my dad. It hurt my heart that I did this to my sister. And I wasn't hurting them, like I was chipping off little pieces of my own heart.
Right.
And through me making amends, I was able to re-put those pieces back. Like, okay. And I haven't come across an amends where people have said like, I don't accept your apology. I mean, I got a couple more amends to make with people when the time comes, when I'm able to see those people. There's a lot of people that I haven't been able to see, like some girls from my high school that I really hurt. There was some girls, a certain girl in particular in high school, like she was so in love with me and she was such a good girl. And like I hurt that girl, you know what I mean? Like I put drugs in front of her, and all she was a good girl, and all she did was care about me and love me, but I treated her like shit. And when the time comes, and whenever I'm able to see her again, if that comes to it, like I need to make an amends to her. I don't know how it's gonna go, but there's still something I know I need to like fulfill in my life. But me making my amends has allowed me to feel more complete. Like I don't feel like I have these empty pieces of me that are broken off that I'm not able to put back. Through me making my amends, like I'm able to put myself back together. So that's been a big thing for me.
Dude, thank you for sharing that, bro.
Yeah.
That shows a lot of growth within you, bro. Like really, thanks for sharing that, man. Just for anybody that's out there watching, maybe they might want to look within and make amends themselves, and maybe go through the steps as well. As far as your relationships now, like how did you maintain those relationships or build on them to regain trust, and and kind of just show them like, hey, this is me now. Like this is really me, and I want you to feel my love. Like what are some things that you do for someone that may be watching and it's just like, bro, how do I get these people to trust me? Like, is it consistency? Like what is your tactic? What do you do to like regain that love back and trust?
So for me, a big thing is, back in the day, like I was an asshole. Like I didn't give a fuck what you felt. I didn't give a fuck what you thought. I didn't give a fuck what you were going through. It's all about me. Everything was about me. I went out of my way to be an asshole before, because I felt like I could, like I was the man. Today, I honestly always try to come from a place of love. So I act from the exact opposite that I used to. Like I always try to come from a place of love. I constantly try to think before I say something, even if it's a joke, you know what I mean? Like I try to think like, okay, if I'm this person and I make this joke, how would I feel? Is there going to be any like, oh man, like why did that person say that? Or, if someone makes a joke, like even some little shit, like say, oh, okay, there's someone with like their haircut's kind of fucked up, and say, oh, what the fuck, who cut your hair like that fucked up haircut? Like I think like, okay, if that's me and someone jokes around, even if it's joking, like I'm gonna feel like, oh, like a little like punch to my, you know what I mean? Like, oh man, why'd you
You're
have
more
to say that?
conscious about other people's feelings and what they think. So
I'm always thinking about how what I say, what I do is affecting the next person, and if it's gonna affect them in a positive way and a negative way. And I'm always trying to come from a place of love and honesty, and a lot of times coming from a place of love and honesty, some people might not want to hear what you have to say. But as long as I know I'm coming from a place of love and honesty, and my ego is removed from the situation, if they're hurt by what I have to say, then maybe it's something they need to hear, because I'm coming from a place of love. I'm not coming from a place where I'm trying to make myself look cool at their expense or anything like that.
Right.
Like I'm just trying to be genuine. I'm trying to be true, and I'm trying to really treat people how I want to be treated. That's what I always think. Like I always try to see myself in other people, and before I say something, I'm like, okay, if that's you right there and you say this, how would you feel?
Right.
That's really, really big for me today. I think people notice that, because even from before, I've always been a good guy. Like I've always been a big-hearted guy. I remember in preschool, not preschool, in kindergarten there was some kid named John, and he was like an obese kid, and in the bathrooms, like, he would go to take a piss and he'd pull his pants all the way down and you could see his ass while he was taking a piss. And I remember being in kindergarten, he was in the restroom taking a piss like that, and the other kids came in and they seen him and they're like, oh, look at fat ass John, look at fat ass John, he's taking a piss, and they like kick him in his ass while he's pissing.
That's fucked up.
And I was just like, leave him alone, like, he's not doing anything. And I remember going home to my mom that night, telling my mom, like, Mom, and I started crying. I'm like, the other kids were picking on John because he's fat, he pees with his pants all the way down, like, and I remember crying, like, Mom, I'm gonna be John's friend just so he has friends, like, so he's not sad. So that's always been the person, like, type of person I've been. And me just trying to get back to that, like, pure, innocent, loving person is really how I operate today. And I think people notice it.
You can feel it, dog.
And people, like, you know,
I feel
pick
that
up on
shit.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, the energy, you can definitely feel it, bro. Like, mad respect for that. Aside from the 12 steps, what is something that, you know, that you do that helps with you, with your anxiety, or, you know, stuff that you might feel afterwards?
So I've always been really big into music, and you know, it's a crazy thing because they say drugs will destroy everything you love, and it's so true, because like there was a point in time where like I wanted to be an artist, like I wanted to be a graph artist, and I would tag and I would write, and I would get tweaked out, and I draw so much and I tag so much that I eventually burned myself out on it. And I'm just like, man, because I sit there and I do it for hours and hours and hours and hours. And then eventually one day I was just like, this isn't any fun anymore.
Oh my God.
And then with the rap, like I rap, I make music, but I would get tweaked out and I'd write and I'd write and I'd write, and I have books and books and books. And I feel like honestly, like I wrote so much rap songs and I've recorded so much rap and I've done so much, but it was like I was on drugs, you know what I mean? That I burned myself out, like, and it kind of like killed the fire that was in me a little
Right,
bit.
yeah, for sure. Like when you have a song on repeat, such a good song, and then you just play it and play it, it gets played out.
Yeah, so like I kind of like, man, like yeah, it helped me be a little more creative, but in the end, like it burned me out on it. So like, you know, I still love listening to music. Like I work out, like I hang out with people, like I love seeing other creative people, and you know, I love feeding off creative energy. Like even with music, like me and the homie did a song with Lazy Bone.
I know, I've heard that. That's just tight.
Thank you, my homie Downer, my homie Downer. Shout out Down One. I don't know how that fool did it, man. That fool just got on Instagram, started fucking connecting with people. Next thing we know, he fucking is in talking to Bone Thug's manager, and then we wound up getting on a song with Lazy Bone. It's crazy.
That's badass, dog.
Yeah, and like that inspired me. Like I was inspired, so I wrote like some dope ass shit, and you know, I was able to do it. But now it's kind of like I gotta be inspired more. I can't just sit there and fucking
just write
go fucking ham. Yeah. So, you know, working out, exercising, music, hanging out with cool, sober, clean people, like that's really what I really gotta pray a lot too. I pray a lot.
Like, and you've always had that, like, you know, higher power or God or Allah, like, sense in you. Like, you prayed it while you were in jail. Like, so that was always there.
Yeah, and you know, there was a time in jail where I did pray to Allah. Like, I practiced that, like, righteously. I practiced that righteously. And I practiced that righteously even when I got out. Like I considered myself Muslim, but, like, I eventually went back to the drugs, and that was, like, my higher power, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like today, it's like, you know, I know there's a creator out there. I know that there's a power greater than myself. What it is I can't honestly say. I don't think anybody can. But you know, I know that we're all connected somehow. We're all connected, and I just try to think of the connection that all of us have. Like I try to think of like all of our minds are connected. We're all connected some way, and like we just need to find the people that you know we could help, or to help us, and we all just have to do it together. Like, you know, stay, like they say, like stay in the herd. We just gotta have that herd mentality.
How does working in recovery like help you? Does it fulfill you? Like, is it something that, you know, keeps you staying sober? Is it something that really fulfills your heart, and they say, you know what, like this is a legit purpose. Like I'm helping others that, you know, that have been through the shit that I've been through.
Well, I wouldn't say working in recovery is what keeps me sober. I would say, you know, me praying every day, me talking to my sponsor every day, me doing my daily 10-step, me checking myself when I feel like, okay, I'm saying something that might be offensive and making amends right away. That's what keeps me sober. Working in recovery is just like kind of like a byproduct of that, because my recovery got me this job, kind of. But it's good to see people come in and be able to talk to people and, you know, be able to relate with people. Like, I've made a lot of friends at my job. I'm not clinical, so I'm not working in the clinical area. I'm like an administrative assistant, so I'm working in the administration building. But it's good to see people come in and like from the time they come in, if they stick around to the time they leave. It's good to see that change in people, and you can start to see like this little hope in people's eyes come back as they're coming back to life slowly, and it's a beautiful thing. And you know, it's good. I don't want to say it's good, but there's a lot of people who come back to treatment and they see me and they're like, bro, you're still here. Like, whoa, like, we're so proud of you. Like, what the fuck? And some people come back to treatment and they see me still there and they're like, bro, you inspire me. Like,
that's what's
you
up.
Inspire me. Like,
that's what's up.
I'm like, if I could do it, you can do it. Like, we're no different. So being able to sit down and talk to people like that has just been like a beautiful thing.
That's good to hear, Doc. That's really good to hear. Before we close this out, I want to ask you just one more question, and I asked this question to a lot of people on the podcast, and that is that I think there's three things in life that are guaranteed and they're marked in our gravestone. That's our birthday and the day we pass. But there's this one thing that we overlook, and that's that dash in the middle. That dash in the middle to me represents the way we live, the way people remember us by. What is it that you want your dash to represent at the end of the day when you're gone?
I want my dash just to represent like love, like someone who had such a big heart where he would give anything to make someone else smile. Like, I don't like seeing people sad, and if I could give like a sad person some sort of happiness, like I want to be someone who's able to give people that are sad happiness. Like, you know, I want to be the person who, if there was someone who had no friends and no one liked them, like, I'm that person that they remembered as one friend. I want to be remembered as the person who this actually happened, where, you know, out of all these people, like, just some random lady that was that one stranger who called me and told me Happy Mother's Day when he didn't even know me. Like, I just want to be remembered as that one person who thinks and know, like, has love for people who don't even expect it. You know
like John.
Yeah, like that kid John.
Dude, that's fucking inspiring right there, bro.
That's, and you know, I'm creative in music and all that too, but I'm about love and peace. You know what I mean?
That's tight. And then before we close this out, like, where can people find your music?
So you can check out my music at SoundCloud, www.soundcloud.com/MoreDown, MoreDown, one word. You can also check me out on Spotify at Mighty Mo-More-Down. And YouTube too. YouTube, I haven't really focused on YouTube, but I got a couple things on there. YouTube.com/MoreDown.
Sick. Check him out. Legit. He has a track with Lazy Bone. I appreciate that. I'll also leave the links in the description down below, so go ahead if you just want to go ahead and search through that. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. Hey, once again, dude, thank you for coming out.
Yeah,
I appreciate you, man.